This game is called Tales of the Round Table, and it is a game that's being play tested, and it has a specific goal. It wants to teach. The idea is the dream, the role player's dream. You get a little box. Yeah, well, not only that, but you get a little box. You open the box, and nobody knows what role playing is, and you can learn. The Grail, no pun. Right. But we hope. So we have 4 possible protagonists, and there are 3 of us, and you can pick whoever you want. So we have Arthur, Merlin, Una, the fairy queen, and Guinevere. So these are the good guys, but they want slightly different things. So whoever you would like.
I feel like Merlin.
And Guinevere. Aha. You know, this could be kind of interesting if Arthur is a fairly abstract character and isn't one of the protagonists. So, so I will be Una. And the first thing we do, we have we are using our card, these the instructions. We are pretending that we are taking this out of the box. So start playing by reading this card. Each player chooses one of the 4. Each one reads the bio section out loud.
Okay. Merlin, the wizard, protagonist. A wise old wizard who has worked for decades to establish lasting peace in Britain. Relationships, former teacher of Morgana, mentor to Arthur, and longtime friend of Una and the fairies.
I am Una, the fairy queen. Protagonist has long enjoyed a peaceful communion between Britain and Fairy, now seeks to address the threats to Britain, especially the threats to the peace between their worlds. I'm the half-sister of Morgana, I'm an old friend and ally of Merlin, and I secretly protect Guinevere.
Okay, Guinevere, protagonist. A young woman of a noble house wants to see Britain prosper without the shedding of blood. Relationships, feelings for Arthur, friends of Merlin, daughter of Leon de Grace.
Okay.
Great-grands.
So this is before they're married.
Yeah.
And the give a little perspective, I'll read for Arthur. Because Arthur is a young man who drew the sword from the stone, a good heart but inexperienced. Feelings for Guinevere, student of Merlin, and adopted son of Sir Ector. But the important point here is that we are not talking about King Arthur. Right now, he's just a guy who's supposed to be the son of an older king and who is the adopted son of a knight, and he has this sword. So we're a long way away from King Arthur time. And also, I would point out that the name of the game is a little bit misleading. It says Tales of the Round Table, but in what we just described, there is no round table. No. There's no gathering of knights or anything like that. So we also have the oldest among you reads the Riance card. I'm making a guess here.
Are you sure?
No, I'm not. But Prince Riance, the rival, is one of the nobles who refuses to accept Arthur's kingship. He is skilled knight, he is well-connected noble, he's a formidable commander, he desires to prove himself, and he starts the game with a hardened heart, which is a rule thing. There is also Morgana, who is also an antagonist. She is the half-sister of Una, but was raised among mortals. She learned magic from Merlin, but has rejected him as a teacher. She harbors a great deal of bitterness in her heart, starts the game with, of course, a hardened heart. So these characters are available for antagonist purposes, and also Arthur is available as a character in the stuff we do, I suppose. So now that we have done this, now you shall read the problems in the land. This is the problems that Camelot, I guess, is which also seems a little wrong. I'm not sure there's a Camelot at this point, but it doesn't matter. It also points out that we don't have to follow the King Arthur stories, any version of them, at all.
Should I read them out loud?
Oh, yes.
Okay. 1. Prince Rience is determined to make war on Camelot and will surely destroy it if he does. 2. Morgana hates Arthur and will surely do something terrible to him that prevents him from becoming king. 3. Arthur and Guinevere have begun to drift apart, chaos, and will surely lose their chance to be married to each other.
Okay, so these problems actually will remain here. Now we have our storybook. Technically, we would all have this storybook. There's 4 of them. So the beginning, Guinevere reads the inside cover.
Out loud or for myself?
Yes.
Okay. Play this game to create something beautiful together. The object of this game is to build satisfying story together. One whose outcome isn't decided before, but is discovered by playing. Look for how characters change in response to the situation they encounter, and what the fate of Britain and the land of Faerie become as a result of the story you make. Some tips for doing this well. Keep your narration short and simple. Don't monologue or monopolize. Build on what other players say. Instead of trying to change the past, change the future. Remember, there is no one original Arthur legend. There have been many various versions over the centuries, all very different from another. Free yourself from any notions of who exactly the characters are or what has to happen. This story will be your own.
Then Merlin, we are almost ready. Merlin reads the prologue.
Prologue. Once upon a time, there was a land called Britain. Britain was without a king, and the land was on the brink of ruin. While the young Arthur had drawn the sword from the stone, many evils still threatened the kingdom. The Prince Rience was coming to challenge Arthur and destroy Camelot. Morgana, the sorceress, was brewing dark magic with doom in mind, and the ancient connection between Britain and the fairy realm was about to be lost forever. But there was still hope, for this was a land of heroes. You are one of the heroes. What role will you play in the fate of Britain?
Now, according to our storybook, starting with Arthur and going clockwise, each player takes a turn creating and playing out a scene. Since we have no Arthur, I am going to say Guinevere is the logical next choice as actor. And then the person across from you plays the opposition, which in our case I suppose is me because I'm technically across, and you will be a muse. There are 2 muses, but you get to be both. Their jobs are almost the same. So then on your scene you are the actor, and then what's going to happen is these are going to rotate. Follow the steps in the pages that follow. So to set the scene, you will say meanwhile, and then you will say your character's name, and you will name somebody to confront. Usually it's one of the antagonists. I suppose you could use Arthur as a character as well. And you can even make up new characters that you think are sensible based on what has happened, or any ideas that you have. You have to decide whether you are softening their heart, if they are hard-hearted already, right? Whether you are going to use force to stop what they're doing. Whether you're going to, they say, make amends, which is to find a more positive relationship with them in some way. You can't do it if their heart is hardened. You can't make amends. You can't get somewhere positive with them
Okay.
unless they have their heart softened first.
Okay.
So, and then, so right now you're not really playing, you're just saying these things. So you will choose what you're doing.
Okay, so Guinevere. No, you said start with.
Meanwhile,
Meanwhile, Guinevere is in a old stone circle in the forest.
problem. That's going to be the opposition gets to say where you are. So
okay.
right now you are just going to
okay.
give the
Okay.
information. That's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So meanwhile, Guinevere talking to Morgana, trying to soften the character's heart regarding Prince Rience.
Okay. I see. So that's the situation. Then I'm going to say the concrete obstacle, which is that Morgana has. Now you see, since it's not Morgana as the problem, I have to think about her Riance, which is good. I'm going to say that she has actually convinced Riance of all kinds of riches he's going to get, and because, well, the concrete thing is that she doesn't want to. Okay, she does. I don't have to explain it. She has her own plans about Prince Riance, and they're very mean. So then the muse says where and when this is taking place.
I get to
Yes, you stage the situation and tell us where we are. Have I actually arrived yet? Has she actually arrived yet? Any of that stuff.
Well, to make it easy for me, I'm going to say that it is midday in a stone circle in the forests, where Guinevere is already waiting for Morgana to arrive to a prearranged meetup.
And you also, because you are also the other muse, get to whoever that is sitting there. That person will say what is the what are some objects in the scene.
Okay.
So flera saker.
There is about a dozen large stones with various Celtic runic symbols and inscriptions on them surrounding it. The ground is mostly just grass with some leaves and sticks, and there are quite tall, I'd say about 5 to 10 meter trees surrounding it, but there is a big clearing for this specific stone circle. Otherwise, in loose object, there aren't so many. There are mostly just sticks and leaves.
Okay. So now we are simply going to play an exchange. What does Guinevere do? What does she do to achieve her goal?
Well, Guinevere, I will make my point to Morgana that when I was a child, we used to believe that fairies lived in mounds like this. And now we know that the fairies are among us. And this is the time for men and fairies to live in peace together. And we must work to make this happen.
How does that have to do with Riance? Remember, this was the problem you were trying to solve, right?
Because he wants to make war.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
And I want to find an ally to prevent war.
Uh-huh.
I'm trying to point out that she is the sister of Una.
Right. Mm-hmm. I see.
And she is of two worlds, both fairy and both men. And we don't want to come to a situation where neither men or fairies are in war with each other or separate. And Prince Riance is the warmonger, which we have to stop.